From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is your weather at noon.
Hey folks, good afternoon. So glad you could join me for this October 18th edition of your live weather at noon here in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center. Of course, if you've been keeping an eye on the forecast for the last few days, you know exactly what we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Those thunderstorms here through tonight. But first, as usual, I want to start with conditions across the area, kind of set the stage for what we're watching over the next 12 hours. First things first, Cherokee, I like to start in northwest Alabama because we're usually a little warmer here. Upper 70s, near 80 as of midday here. Dew points a little high, relatively higher compared to the last few days, right? That moisture is coming in from the south, so we are seeing those slightly more humid conditions. Already up to 80 here in Savannah and in southern Tennessee, just north of the state line as well. Dew points in the 60s, winds, pretty gusty, relatively speaking, out of the southwest at 10, sometimes up to 15 miles an hour, so we are seeing that surge of moisture. Let's take a look at the Futurecast, break down our threat here for tonight, see what we're looking and see at the times that we're watching for these heavy storms. So there are those gusts out of the south, right? Transporting that moisture, that energy into the Tennessee Valley, right, for those heavy storms. Through the day, we're pretty much looking fine. I don't expect any major rain chances. Go ahead, continue with your outdoor plans for this afternoon. I don't expect any major issues there. It's going to be after sunset and especially through tonight when we see these storms move through, and they're actually moving through relatively fast, right? So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say 11 to 1. That's going to be the time frame for the heaviest thunderstorm activity across the area. As of current indications, there's pretty good support for this time frame. You'll notice as it moves on through, pretty good stretches, some heavy downpours here. Winds continue pretty robust out of the south, so we could see some gusty winds, 40 to 50, maybe up to 60 in some isolated spots with this. There's some good news with this in the sense that this is actually kind of the weak last gasp of the line. So as it's moving through our area, it's in that transitional phase. So it'll be stronger as it's in the western portions of the area, weakening as it heads into the eastern portions of the area. I say this with some pretty decent confidence that I-65 and east, the chances for severe weather do diminish there. All right, notice, I'm gonna step off here real quick. Notice as it's heading towards the Chattanooga metro past, say, I-24 and I-75, it really starts to weaken there. So those chances really taper off as it heads further and further east. Notice, some stray showers behind it, but nothing substantial as we head through Sunday morning. And especially by Sunday afternoon, I think those chances pretty much go to zero. We clear out pretty nicely, and we have another gusty but relatively cool day for tomorrow. So let's just get past this and we have some nice fall weather to look forward to. But first, through tonight, let's take a look at what we're keeping a close eye on. All right, first things first, I want to talk about the winds because that's kind of the primary threat we're watching. It's not a huge threat, but it is absolutely not a zero threat. We're talking about a level 2 or so out of 5 risk of some gusty winds, maybe up to 60 miles an hour in some isolated spots. I think the best shot of that is Shoals West, but it could happen anywhere, especially if those winds do translate down and you get one of those surges up to 60. So we'll watch that very carefully. It doesn't take a 60-mile-an-hour gust to maybe bring a weak tree down on a power line, so we'll watch for impacts there. Tornado threat is very low, but not zero. It never is with these things. If you get a surge of wind out and you get just the right topographical influences, you could see a brief tornado there. So we'll watch that very carefully. But I want to emphasize we're not talking about tornado outbreaks, so don't get all freaked out or anything like that. Maybe just keep an eye on things here through tonight. And of course, we're staffed through tonight, so we'll let you know if anything does happen, but the chances of that are relatively lower compared to other days. Hail, very minimal threat of hail because that's usually a supercell type thing, and we're not seeing supercells tonight, so we're not going to get those sustained updrafts where you can get those hail growths sustaining themselves, right? Maybe up to P's, but we're not talking anything major there. We're not talking quarters or anything like that. Flooding, maybe some isolated street flooding, especially further west where that drought continues to build and that moisture doesn't absorb quite so quickly into the soil. So we'll watch that, but I really think the chance is kind of minimal for that, but definitely not zero, especially again in the western areas, because those heavy downpours will have some pretty good rain rates with them as they're moving on through. But for most of us, I think it'll be just some nice sleeping weather, right? But for a few of us, we could see some gusts. So we're going to keep a very close eye on it here through tonight, especially as that wind does blow through here. We could see some of those higher gusts. So, of course, we'll be staffed. We'll let you know if anything happens. And, of course, if for some reason we do see a tornado warning or anything like that, we'll be live nonstop until the danger is over. So don't worry too much. We'll keep a very, very close eye through tonight. Now, afterwards, hey, really nice stretch of weather coming up. High pressure Monday settles in, fall-like conditions, beautiful blue skies here. A secondary front rolls through on Tuesday. Notice, boom, that swings right on through here. Maybe some stray showers creeping in as well. I'm not expecting any major impacts from this. We're definitely not seeing a repeat of tonight. Just, again, isolated shower here and there. We actually get back down to the upper 60s as a result of this on Wednesday, with maybe lower 70s for the rest of the week. So a solid work week coming up, to be sure. By Friday night and Saturday, we are seeing signs of another system. So I think out towards 6-7 days out, we could see a little bit more elevated rain chances. That's next weekend. But the work week actually looks pretty good. Tuesday's the only chance of rain, and that's just some stray showers here. So after tonight, after we get through these relatively more strong storms, I think we're doing just fine for at least the next 5 days or so. Taking a look at your 7-day forecast here, right as those showers in tomorrow, I think we got a good little stretch of weather. And by the way, tomorrow, when we see those temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, we'll also have gusts, winds out of the west-northwest, 15 to 20 miles an hour. So compared to the last few days, especially compared to today where we see those 80s, it'll actually feel relatively brisk. So we're certainly seeing a really quick swing into fall. And notice those lows in the lower 40s, probably even upper 30s in some of the cooler spots in the midweek. Yeah, fall is definitely coming through in a big, big way. Well, thanks for joining me here for your live forecast update at noon. I'll be back with you at 2, 6, and 9 for regular forecast updates. And of course, we'll be staffed through tonight, keeping an eye on those storms.
You're watching the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel.